We're back, and the program you're still watching is Good Morning in Sierra Leone, live from a broadcasting house, New Englandville, in Freetown. Well, as we have heard in the news, President Julius Maada Bio has officially assumed the chairmanship of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, marking a historic moment as the second Sierra Leone head of state to hold this prestigious position. The announcement has been met with great national pride as President Bill takes on a role that symbolizes renewed commitment to unity, peace, security, and sustainable development across the West African region. Known for his democratic credentials and consistent pursuit of social and economic progress, President Julius Maada Bio is widely seen as a transformative leader ready to steer ECOWAS through challenging times. In his new role, President Bio has outlined four key strategic priorities: restoring constitutional order and deepening democracy, revitalizing regional security, cooperation, unlocking economic integration, and building institutional credibility. These pillars are expected to guide ECOWAS and efforts towards regional stability, economic prosperity, and enhanced cooperation among member states. Let's bring you an excerpt of the handing over by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria to President Bio. Indeed, it was a grand investiture.
Excellencies, head of state and government, distinguished guests, please permit me to express my profound gratitude for the confidence you placed in me to serve as chair of the authority, not once, but twice. It has been a profound honor and privilege to lead this esteemed body, and I remain deeply humbled by the trust and support you have extended to me throughout my tenure. As I now hand over the mantle of leadership to my great friend and dear brother, His Excellency, President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, the new chairman of ECOWAS Authority, Head of States and Government, I do so with a deep sense of fulfillment and optimism for the future of West Africa. I remain confident that with the continued cooperation of all its members, ECOWAS will scale over greater heights in our collective pursuit of peace, security, stability, and prosperity for our people and for our region. In the course of the past few years, we have faced complex regional challenges, political transition, and security threats. I thank every one of you. As we look to the future, I urge all of you to remain vigilant and responsive to the evolving need of our people. Let us deepen the cooperation, uphold diplomatic principles, and foster inclusive growth that leaves no one behind, especially our youth, women, and vulnerable population who remain central to the future of our region. Our organization must continue to strike a fine balance between its core original mandate of economic integration and the complex political security and governance challenges, including democratic values in our region. Economic integration cannot be superimposed on an untenable political environment. That is why we must remain steadfast in our resolve to rise to these and emerging challenges. Let me also thank the ECOWAS Commission, the community institution, and all technical and administrative staff for their tireless work in organizing this session and supporting the work of our organization. As you return to your respective countries, let us remain resolute in our shared mission to deepen our integration, protect our people, and build a prosperous, secured, and united West Africa. While wishing all delegations safe return to your various destinations, I declare the 67th session of ECOWAS Authority of Head of State meeting closed as I hand over. Date and venue of the 68th session of the Authority of Head of State and Government of ECOWAS will be announced in the future by the new chairperson.
Well, that was the investiture of President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, having been elected as Chairman Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government in Abuja. Well, that was the handing over ceremony you saw. Well, earlier I said it was a great or grand investiture. President Bio of Sierra Leone is now the Chairman of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government. Now, I'm in the studios to talk more on this, or what does this mean for a country like Sierra Leone. We have here in the studios the presidential spokesman, Alhaji Alpha Kanu. Good morning, Alhaji, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mr. Sumaila. Good morning.
Now, we've just seen the investiture of President Bio as Chairman of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, after his election into that position, him being the second, leader in Sierra Leone to occupy that particular position in the ECOWAS sub-region. What does this mean for Sierra Leone? What does this mean for the geopolitics of West Africa?
Thank you very much. What it means for Sierra Leone is that this is confirming President Bio's promises before he came to power, that he would help rebrand the image of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone had been in the news for the wrong reasons for a very long time now. So instances like this, where the head of state of the country is chosen to head a regional organization of all other heads of state in the region, is a testament to the fact that Sierra Leone's image is changing due to the efforts of President Bio and his government to his promises. So it means that we are now leading the regional organization ECOWAS. We now lead the narrative and also lead the plans and strategies of ECOWAS. What does ECOWAS have at the moment on that table? ECOWAS has four main issues that are biting on them. You talked about it: restoring regional stability, democracy, bringing back the seceded states of the AES, the Association of Sahel States of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, and also trying to accelerate the process of the integration.
Now, Dr. Kanu, for the seceded states, those who are now formed of the Sahel, alliance. I mean, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. President Bio is not new to the dynamics, because even before his election, when those political upheavals occurred in these countries, President Bio was among those Africans or ECOWAS leaders sent to go to countries like Burkina Faso, to talk to Ibrahim Traore and some other leaders. I mean, Goita and the man in Niger. So it's like the situation itself is not new to him.
And that is what gave him the advantage over the other contenders for that position. President Bio has been able to engage these people at a time when the region had put them aside, suspended cooperation with them. President Bio went to Burkina Faso. President Bio went to Mali, when Mali had taken hostage about 40 Ivorians who had gone there to see if they could intervene in the process of returning the government to democratic means. They were held hostage, and the President Assimi Goïta refused to release them, in spite of all the interventions of various authorities within the region. But President Bio went there. He was able to engage President Goïta. I went with him. I was worried that we would fall in the same pit to get there. They might just decide to hold us hostage. But skillfully we went there, had lunch. While we were having lunch, the CDS was with us. The President CDS traveled with us that day. President Bio spent hours in close session with just the two of them, President Assimi Goïta and President Bio. They had lunch together. They sat there for nearly 2 hours. When they came out, they were both smiling. So on the way to the airport, I asked the President, I said, how did it go? He said, oh, it was a successful trip and all that. But then, when we came home, it was not too long before the Ivorians were released. So it already shows that President Bio has that advantage. What is his advantage? These are young military people who have taken power. They were soldiers. The complaint of Mali was that the war was not doing the right thing. The government then was not doing much, which was the reason why the NPRC came to power in Sierra Leone. They said that government was negligent of what was happening in the war front. They took over. President Bio was one of those. He also became leader as a soldier, but he was able to transition from that leadership to handing over to the democratically elected government. So he would have passed those experiences to him and given courage and confidence to President Assimi Goïta.
But the posture of ECOWAS when the overthrow took place in Mali, and Niger, and Burkina Faso, the posture of ECOWAS at the time, was probably the reason, or among reasons for those countries to decide otherwise. Because there was also this call for military intervention to oust or to reverse those coups. And at the point, I don't know where the advice came from. ECOWAS decided to kind of back down on that decision to intervene militarily, to reverse coups. Now that posture, that came from ECOWAS at the time, don't you think probably is among reasons for the decisions of those guys or those countries to form that alliance? Yes,
certainly.
Because the posture was that, okay, we are going to remove you guys. You are suspended from ECOWAS, and now as it is seen, political pundits have said it. But in so far as that alliance is concerned, they are really thriving in a way. So do you think that ECOWAS should have taken that posture initially?
But they took it already. And that has given us that fallout. You see my colleague here, Captain Lima, is a soldier. he knows that it is not easy to make a decision to go to war with anybody, especially with somebody, a country within your own sub-region. The initial posture of ECOWAS is traditional. They usually just make those statements. We will suspend you, we will reverse it, and all that kind of thing. But that is the initial posture. It's called grandstanding. But when they saw that these people were adamant, because you don't just go to war for that, they sent emissaries. So they sent emissaries to is it General or General Tijani? Even the old President Abubakar Abdul Salami was one of the leaders who went to speak to them in Nigeria, from Nigeria, in Niger. And then also President Will, I'm not sure whether it was ECOWAS that asked him to go, but I think they did. But he did go to Burkina Faso. And you know what the president told him? He said, these people, we're very grateful that you came. So when this thing happened, they didn't even come to ask us why we did this. They said they're going to fight against us. That's why we stood our ground. He said, but you have come now, and we will talk to you. So that shows that President Bio is a soldier, is a gentleman, is a diplomat. And all because he has credibility, because he has been through that before himself. So he knows these things. Yes, I think that posture that ECOWAS was going to attack them and say, well, okay, you attack me, ECOWAS, because we are members of ECOWAS. Now we are not anymore. So you don't have any more mandate to attack us or force us to go. So we form our own thing. It's an escapism, a form of escape from that threat. They can't fight ECOWAS. So we don't want to be part of you. But now that ECOWAS has realized that the family is better when we stay together, the Sahel is very important for us. It is our defensive wall against the Al-Qaeda in the Sahel, from the Sahara that is coming in. If that wall falls, they will come into Nigeria. If that wall falls, they will come into Cote d'Ivoire. If that wall falls, they will come to Guinea. And when Guinea falls, we will fall. And the whole of West Africa will go. So we have to maintain that wall. That's why ECOWAS now has chosen somebody who has the experience.
Okay, now ECOWAS has chosen somebody, in your own words, as somebody who has the experience. But does the leadership style of President Bill align with the values and objectives of ECOWAS, especially around conflict, politics in the region?
You see, it is a given that no conflict, no war is settled in the battlefield. You have to go to negotiation table. President Bio has done that. He was a soldier fighting in the front at Bwedu and all those places. But at the end of the day, when he had the opportunity to be the #1 decision maker in the country, he said, I think this war can only end if we start talking to the enemy. Well, not the enemy, the opponents. And in this case, he went out to seek out the leadership of the rebels, when nobody would think of doing that, even have the audacity and courage to do that. He did that. He went out, sought out Fodisanko, brought him into the open, and they discussed. And we all know now what happened after that. There's no war anymore in Sierra Leone. So if he's been able to do that, end the war in Sierra Leone, I would say, because they say, our people say, don't look at where you fall, look at where you tripped. We tripped when President Bio first went to bring Fodisanko out. Everything else that followed is a derivative of his action. You know, the Lome conventions and all that kind of thing. He made it possible. And because he made that possible, ECOWAS realizes that. But they also see that he's a man who has the democracy as a tenet embedded in him. He handed over power when he had all the opportunity to keep it. He was young, he had soldiers and all that. Within 3 months, he handed over to civilians. So this is a man who would encourage and engender democratic tenets in West Africa. So they did that. And he has handed over so he can also talk to these people. He did the same with President Mamadi Doumbouya of Guinea. He was the first after ECOWAS had suspended Guinea. He went there. He said, if your neighbor's house is burning, you don't only throw water on yours, you go and help him put out the fire. So he went to Guinea to meet with President Mamadi Doumbouya. So they've seen that he has this proactive attitude towards resolving issues on the table rather than confrontational. And that's what I think attracted ECOWAS leaders.
Honorable, before we move to another issue, what impact will this rule have on Sierra Leone? You know, especially when it has to do with our domestic affairs. And will it distract from the national priorities in order for us to boost the other ECOWAS countries?
No, it will not distract from our national priorities. Our national priorities are a set given already on the manifesto of President Bill. We're working on that. He has lieutenants who are running various sectors of those. Those are going on. They will not be affected. President Bill is the one who has been chosen. The person who will be his lieutenant, and that will be the foreign minister, who naturally his job is outside of Sierra Leone. So that is a job that is cut out for international global issues. So the Sierra Leone development project, the feed salon, the human capital development, that will continue unabated. It will not be affected by that. But what it has done for Sierra Leone is that it has brought Sierra Leone once more into the limelight. Our president is now a leader of West Africa, and the international community knows that the only credible people will be put to lead huge tract of land like that. What happened here is that immediately after President Bill was chosen as a
all right.
Please let me give you this. You must hear this. When he was chosen as a leader, that same evening, he received an invitation from the Vaccine Alliance to meet them and be the guest speaker in a summit that Monday in Brussels, the EU. There was Bill Gates and the Gavi Foundation and the EU. They wanted to raise money for vaccines. Mpox is ravaging us all over the world, especially Sierra Leone. So they need money. They wanted 9 billion. I mean, more than that. But when President Bill went there as guest speaker and the chief advocate and solicitor for that time, they raised 9 billion that day. Britain did not attend the meeting, but President Bill took it upon himself to write directly to Sir Keir Starmer to ask him to intervene. And Sir Keir Starmer replied with what? He replied with a donation of $1.6 billion.
All right,
that is all.
Alpha Khan, continue to
he's
stay
credible
with us.
And he has
We'll
integrity.
definitely come back to you. He is Honorable Alpha Khan and he is presidential spokesman. This is Good Morning Sierra Leone. We are broadcasting live from Broadcasting House here in Glenville. We continue with the program. The Sierra Leone People's Party is still on the process of conducting its lower level elections. Regional and district chairman, women's leader and the youth wing of the party's leaders have been elected. Although at the beginning there were reports of violence, but the PPRC intervened and most disputes were resolved. For more on this, we have been joined in the studios by the National Public Relations Officer of the Sierra Leone People's Party, Hi Lawrence Lima. Good morning and welcome to the program. As people conducting that, who conducted that elections, were you bullied at any point?
Myself?
Well, the whole, I'm
team?
talking about the whole team that went there to conduct the elections.
Bullied by who?
No,
We are not bullied.
Okay.
We are not bullied.
Were you given the free hands to do that?
Certainly, because a responsibility was placed in us to conduct women's council's elections in line with the rules and regulations guiding the conduct of the elections for women's councils, and that responsibility by the constitution is placed in the national chairman, and so he delegated that responsibility to us. That is Article 14(5) of the Constitution makes provisions for that. So he delegated that responsibility to us, and we went there. That is what we were conducting. For every processes you are conducting, people will have concerns. So there were concerns which we addressed, and then we passed that. We were able to conduct a successful elections in Kenema, where the women elected their leader in the person of Madam Hawafure, who was elected in a very fair and transparent democratic process or elections that we conducted in Kenema.
Okay.
And her deputy in the person of Haja Fatmata Kamara. So they had an overwhelming victory without any issue or iota of doubt.
All right, let's talk. Let's go to the young generation. You had one in Bo, and you came back to Freetown to redo it, and the results this time around is a bit different from what happened in Bo. What happened? Why do you have to go to redo that election?
Well, from what I have assessed, there were probably administrative breaches or oversights or
organization. Unlike previous elections when you see party supporters dancing all over the place, very close to the party office, that was not the case yesterday. There was quiet. You know, I saw quiet. What do you think was responsible for that?
Well, the same posture we maintain in Kenema as well, because you want to assemble people, delegates in the conference hall, and that is why we want to see the activities.
Injustice now. No. Can you say women's wing?
I am coming.
No, maybe that wing stuff. That wing, women's wing. Why not the woman becoming?
Allow me just to make the point. We have positions allotted by the Constitution. Women's leader, that's the position where, of course, a woman can be elected to lead.
Lawrence Lima, continue to stay with us where it's now time for us to go for a short commercial break, and the program continues right after that.